From the 18th of the 5th month of 1436, going through 3 doors, spiritual exercise and the Extreme One Discourses, lesson 12. There is a picture of a woman with her arms outstretched being silly beneath a 6-pointed star in a whirlwind. Does the whirlwind represent the Anami lock, our sphere having no name, or the Alak lock, our invisible world? Her posture can be seen to represent an oath with the right arm and an offering with the left. Even if the 5th and 9th heaven are not being referred to, one can always get the message of the woman as soul, being beneath spirit. Lesson 12. Dream travel, soul travel. I will admit that I want to drive people away from Ekankar and repel others from it through my study of it. I would also like to use it as one of my means to encourage good and truth, while discouraging evil and ignorance. Every bit counts. Epictetus was probably wrong about every person seeking to do whatever he wants without limits. It seems that he may be wrong about everyone wanting to be happy. Ekankar would agree with religion and that people should have freedom to do what is responsible. Page 261 of the Extreme One Discourses by Harold Klemp seems to direct the person into thinking true freedom will not be found in any other philosophy, mysticism, or sainthood aside from that of the Ekankar Corporation. Is that true? Are people of other paths ignorant of karma? It would seem that many people would be more aware of cause, effect, and action than may get in the way of a connection with God or some type of freedom. A family of refugees from Vietnam had only been in America for a year when they asked Harold Klemp what it was like to live here. Harold was surprised and got smug about how allegedly great it is to live in a country behind more than 50 in terms of happiness and contentment, but were the leaders in rape, child molestation, war crimes, corporate welfare, a whole bunch of things that he is right about how people here do not appreciate the values of what we have. Outer freedom is hardly freedom without inner freedom. Goethe was right in Faust, as liberty and being are to be earned daily. Ekankar says that the 2 currents to approach through daily spiritual exercises are the light and sound. Page 262 admits that dream travel and soul travel are only imaginative techniques. How then can imagination make you directly witness the God of sound and light, when a God imagined is not God? The sound current being ridden must be that of our own being and its actions instead of God's revelation to you. Why should we take projections of an ocean of love and mercy? And the 11th or 12th plane are beyond as actually existing. Shouldn't the goal of a spiritual path be more around doing good and intention than to try to make yourself hear strange music? Page 263 is condescending in how it refers to techniques of dream and soul travel as only at the gates of Ekankar teaching. There's always this implication that the greater truths are being held back, and it seems like there is a severe abrogation in people trying to act like they have advanced according to time as a member of Ekankar, outer initiations, and positions of authority. If the experience of the spiritual exercises of Ek are so focused on as the signs of Ekankar being about the first-hand experience rather than merely following a text, shouldn't a person feel a sense of failure The failure is usually in that being an ekist doesn't offer what it proclaimed it would. People can probably experience and express love better without the group. I see Eckankar making people's lives more complex rather than a way to take things simply. One can have a personal relationship with God and a connection to spiritual things without seeking to crystallize the concepts of a trinity in one's life. A direct path to God. The Mahanta, the Ek, and the Sugmad are terms that can mean many things to a person. A direct path to God may consider there to be at least one prophet, or even just spiritual guides, but addressing them when they aren't physically there is called, well, it's part of fanaticism, but worship, yeah. A perception, like a Gnostic, with the conviction of a Holy Ghost as a God or part of God, doesn't make it so. Why seek God if God is already there? The quote, alleged to be from Rebazar is true in the respect that Al-Quran 95:4 mentions in saying, our creation is upon the highest state of being. The next two verses relate to the quote and how we are brought to the lowest, but the exception of those who believe and work righteousness is not focused on in the quotes. Yes, religion commands us to know ourselves and teaches we are to gain experience, but the focus in Eckankar is different. Wouldn't nurturing the relationship with God and creation that we call religion be better achieved by some means other than a central focus on experiences? Does dream and soul travel give people special abilities to explore secret divine realms? If Ek means spiritual, then it would be prudent to cultivate an inner purity, consider the right person to be a spiritual teacher, and heed the instructions of the spiritual master. Am I your true teacher because I tell you that the secrets of light, sound, and indeed all vibrations are that they are manifestations of God's powers of creating and sustaining? A Frenchman called Montaigne experienced the fact that there being dreams that interpret our inclinations, there was more to it than that comment in essays. Wouldn't it be inappropriate to try to claim that there is more to dreams by demonizing personal desires? They are not all selfish expressions of the consciousness of a personal reality or identity. How then can one become a full being when you deny the understanding of yourself from the start? Giving up on personal understandings to what you convince yourself are unique communications and interpretations of a spiritual master is thought to give you hardly seem like acceptance of the highest visions of reality. Soul travel is said to stand out from dream travel by being a clearer event. Page 265 of the Ek Dream 1 Discourses by Harold Klemp teaches that dreams are things to interpret, but soul travel doesn't seem that way. Eckankar teaches that we seem detached from dreams, but as an integral part of soul travel, it is as simple as that. Oh, is it as simple as that? I don't know, that looks weird as a question, gesture, but are these perceptions really how to tell what was mere conceptions of the other worlds and what was a truly metaphysical experience? There is a list of false accusations made against the revelations of Islam listed in Al-Quran Surah 21:8-5. These might be true, but applied to the Eckankar teachings on dreams instead. Harold Klemp and the other historical leaders of Eckankar certainly tried to be poetic at times. Doesn't it seem to you like Eckankar leaders are just making things up at times? The Discourses, and other ECK works are full of mentioning dreams that are jumbled and somehow false. Someone dreamed of watching a blue flame come out of a space shuttle through a window to their backyard, watching something designed to break through the atmosphere was being dragged out by a plane and crashing down when it failed, may be as the lesson in Al-Quran, Surah 22, ayats 11 through 13. The first verse mentions how some worship God on the edge, but falls away into loss in this life and the hereafter. When they fall away, when there is a trial. The next verse mentions how such flip-floppers end up worshiping things that don't harm or benefit. The following verse is how the harm of such going astray is closer than any profitable results of taking such an evil patron. Her interpretation of her dream contains of these elements. If the plane pulling the space shuttle was seen as the Mahata, wouldn't the concept of her being pulled by the plane be the absurdity of needing to worship ECK masters to be successful in spiritual flight? The plane moving away may represent that the Mahanta is never there, and this psychological crutch brings disaster when reliance means being shocked and unable to continue at the times when one is unable to imagine it. The interpretation of the erratic tracks left by the crashing space shuttle of her spiritual life, meaning her instability, is probably very true. If the flame out of the space shuttle is ECK, and that means Ekankar, couldn't that mean that Ekankar is not going to get her anywhere near as far as she wants it to? People create false memories based on regular occurrences. Such is probably the case of a higher initiate who was later said to have been witnessed by reliable people to be at work on days that he was not. Harold Klemp refuses to assume that not remembering a break in patterns in the first incident and not remembering the right time are more likely interpretations than soul travel. We do exist on levels that we are not aware of, but I would hardly jump to confirm the claim that these were unconscious soul travel experiences used to help spiritually awaken a couple of people at his offices. Harold Klemp just wants all to believe in bilocation when not even higher initiates have awareness of it. The ECK Dream 1 Discourses on page 266 claims that contemplation and dreams are sometimes used as a jumping off point for soul travel. What then happens the rest of the times? The next story is about someone more active in attempts towards soul travel. How can one merely think yourself into realities that are purely spiritual? The man supposedly heard a voice to seek the inner journey before being able to enjoy the outer journeys. Some people might not be able to properly enjoy our outer life, or develop techniques like astral projection without some psychological exploration. A woman had an experience deemed to be soul travel without trying. Regular spiritual practice does make both psychedelic and truly supernatural experience more common, but that doesn't mean the holy doesn't break through without expectations. She felt a presence deemed to be Wazi or Harold Klemp. Some experiences are real, but the interpretation was off. She told the presence that she was ready to go with it. She went in the spirit vision to what she thought was the highest point on earth, but the lack of detail or knowledge of being there made it more of a psychological theme of being exalted spiritually. Could this theme come in as strong without trust in a master in the way a monotheist might trust in God? Billions would probably tell you that the answer of Al-Quran 21:43 is right. The false gods are those masters whom are treated like that are not really guarding or helping them. They can never protect themselves from God and his forces. The next story is prefaced by a claim on page 277 that people are taken to the causal plane or second heaven in full consciousness to see past life records and find solutions to karmic problems. By full consciousness, sorry about the sounds against these containers here. The full consciousness. By full consciousness, it is meant that the person was awake. Is it really necessary to look for causes of problems a sibling is having in a separate realm, or to blame something not going on between you on something unknown between you? Answers are not present in some way, but they aren't always the right ones for you. Nor is experiencing something always related to the context the experience was in. Is believing a spiritual leader in everything he says, without question, attributing anything you figure out on your own, developing a spine, or is it self-debasement and blind faith? Through the looking glass, she's pictured herself in a cloudy place, reading off of bronze tablets. Bronze is usually copper, and metals like tin, that is attributed to Venus and Jupiter. Was it really the high priest of Lucifer who told her that she was being shown the records of their past lives? Harold Klemp certainly likes to be called the Lightbringer. Luciferos is the old Latin form of Lucifer in a literal sense. Not being able to read the writing can be seen as attempting to embed something with meaning that remains unclear. She saw herself giving a detached form of spiritual support, of material support, in a scene where the brother needed emotional and probably mental support. How then is it that she was supposed to have more vairag, or non-attachment? So remember to go after yourself.